Look at that. I am Vee L Harrison reporting live for Creative Cypher's Newsroom, and I am joined by the infamous, the creative mind. Why don't you tell them yourself who you are?
Infamous. Hey, everybody. I'm Jay. I'm the owner of the Avalon Regal Theater in the South Shore community, and we're doing a lot of exciting things over there. So I'm excited to talk about it today.
We are about to dig right into it because this is news, and our Creative Cypher family is always excited about our theater industry and about our acting industry. You fall right into that. Tell me the reawakening of the Regal Theater. Reawakening, what happened? Why are we reawakening the Regal Theater?
Reawakening, reviving, all of that kind of activity has been happening quietly behind the scenes. I've owned the theater for about 12 years, and it's, of course, been a labor of love, but I was a part of a lot of art programs when I grew up. I was in Gallery 37, went to the
Mm,
Merit School of Music.
after school matters.
I took absolutely After School Matters, and I was at ETA Creative Arts for acting school. Went to the Multicultural Dance Academy, and
Wow.
I mean, the list goes on and on. So I understand how important arts programs are, and that's really the impetus for me buying the property in 2014 because I knew how valuable those programs were, and I saw that they're not really being, especially now, publicly supported by government grants. So there's an opportunity for the Regal to really serve as that function. Obviously, we're going to be getting money over there because we're the only game in town. We're the biggest theater on the south side of Chicago, and we're 3 minutes from the Obama Library. So,
The biggest theater on the south side of Chicago.
yeah,
How
that's
many
right.
people do you see?
We've got 2,500 seats.
Wow. Talk to me about the renovations. Why should we be excited for this new reawakening, Drew?
So we've been working on the property for a long time. Most of it has been assessing where the building is at, and a lot of
Mm,
people think this is like a quick in and out kind of job. But the kind of building that it is so unique that it's taken us nearly a decade to put together all of the numbers on this, and in
wow.
so doing, we're sort of chasing the budget into the future because the property obviously continues to deteriorate as it's not being
Right.
operational, and we're doing maintenance on the property. Fortunately, we just got out of a 20-year building court case. I purchased the property in 2014, and it came with a building court case that we had to shore up. There were some code violations on the building, and we've been doing construction since February on the property, and just got the entire building court case dismissed a couple of weeks ago because of that
Mm,
work. Stabilizing
okay.
the exterior of the property was paramount in being able to put ourselves in a position to have the building development ready, and we hope to break ground by spring of 2026.
Wow, Gerald. Wow. So this whole idea of being this cultural staple, you know, tell me about the Black owned aspect as it relates to the rebuild and what you're looking to do.
Well, I'm glad you said black owned because that used to be sort of a term that was just kind of like a theme of
Mm,
let's support our own people, but now it's become more of a necessary economic strategy in our neighborhoods because while we may have the infrastructure for businesses and different services and goods in our neighborhood, we don't have the investment capital that's necessary to increase the capacity of those existing businesses. So what you see is a leakage of money leaving the community to the tune of, last I checked, it was about $2 billion in lack of supply for
wow.
different, yeah, and that's just between 47th and 95th, the lake and the Dan Ryan. It's one of the studies I have. I use these numbers obviously in our projections and the strategy for the project, but there's a lot of leakage of money from our community. I mean, obviously, we have to go outside of the neighborhood to get certain things, and it's becoming increasingly the fact that most things we need in the community, we have to go outside of the neighborhood to get it. So
Mm,
it's also a story about private equity, which is really my background. I'm a finance graduate from U of I, and I went into banking after I graduated. and I was attracted to the private equity industry in terms of the economic benefits it could deliver to
Ah,
our neighborhood. So the story of the Regal is about crowdfunding, really bringing
yeah,
people together to invest in the neighborhood and invest in our own capacity.
certainly. This impact of being a Black owned theater and the message that you're looking to bring for the new generation. Talk to me about that, Gerald. What do you
So again,
want
it's
creative to think?
it's going back to crowdfunding, and we have several entities that we've set up on the theater. We have an agency that we just started, a management agency for up
Mhm.
and coming content creators. We also have a record company that's associated with the theater, and of course, there's a 501(c)(3) that is helping direct all of this activity. But the goal is to use commercial side to subsidize some of the nonprofit activities that we're doing
Okay.
simply because we're in the position to do so. Look, when I bought this deal, I knew that it was going to be a viable model. So as long as this is a $100 million development, it's commercially viable, and
Commercially viable. What do you mean by that?
that means that it's a market based business that can take investment capital and then return that money to the investors with a pretty sizable return. Again, we're the only
Ah,
game in town. There are no other theaters on the south side of Chicago like us, and we have a low overhead in terms of capital investment. Some of these buildings that are being developed across the country or on the north side are just $100 million plus. But
wow.
because the Gardner family is the family who originally restored it, they owned the Soft Sheen Hair Care Company, and
Ah,
they started that on the south side, and they were worth untold millions. But they pumped about $20 million into this building back in the 80s. So that's the benefit that we have, and that we don't have to put really that much more money into the property. It's really about stabilizing it, keeping it development ready while we find the right partners to come in and help us find it. And we have some community programs for that to bring the neighborhood into the building as actual stakeholders and investors and donors. And we could talk about that in a little bit.
I definitely wanted to talk about the fundraising and your community partners. Tell me who's making this possible for you to do, Gerald.
Well, everybody on the ground, we've already we've had quite a bit of investors. Excuse me. About 3 years ago, I did a program. I called it the Seat Bond Program, and again, my background is in private. I said, what if
Okay.
I could turn community members into limited partners? So I came up with a program that was essentially a $1,000 bond that paid at the time. It was very high interest rate, but it was 8% uh, a year, and I think that took maybe 3.5 or so years to pay out. But folks ended up walking home with about 27% interest on funding a working capital revolver for ongoing expenses for the project as we work towards breaking ground. And it was a
Mm,
very successful run, and we have relaunched that program on our website. It's more of like a kind of donor thing, but there is an opportunity to invest still in the program. But being able to have an opportunity presented to community members to get involved in the project, not just as supporters, but
right.
as investors. And
Right.
frankly, being in private equity, like I raise large amounts of money. I don't want to have 50,000 limited partners, but for something like this, it's important to be able to demonstrate that concept of
Sure.
community pooling of investment capital using technology to do that. We all talk
Mm,
about how could we start pooling our money together, and I don't think that the technology conversation has really caught up in our neighborhoods, in our communities, about how we can leverage that in order to help achieve scale.
I read that in your description of this project that you said it's not just a renovation, it's a reclamation. Tell me what you mean by that, Drew.
Absolutely. I mean, everything is really tied thematically into the private equity conversation about being able to have vehicles in our neighborhood available to pool our own capital together and be our own Superman because nobody else is coming. They're not coming,
They're not
especially
coming.
all of the things that have happened in the past few years.
Yeah.
It's a dropping of the Black Party, and we're on our own now. All right, it's like, all right, y'all been here for 300 years. We release you, and it's always been that way. And we're at a crucial moment now, particularly in the city of Chicago, whereas we have property still in our neighborhoods that we own, we have stakeholdership, but we don't
Mhm.
have the ability to hold on to it, be it because something was passed down through an estate to somebody who no longer lives here and they don't know what to do with property, or people are just, you know, living in homes that are free and clear, or somebody wants to move and they own their home and they don't have any kids, that kind of
Right.
thing. But we don't have these mechanisms by which we can hold on to what we have left. And I
Right.
think it's important to be able to get this conversation out there. And I'm hopeful the Regal can be the poster child of the collective crowd coming together and pooling their resources to hold on to what we got left. It's not a lot,
Right.
but it's
It's
enough,
not
and
a
it's
lot.
and it's in America too, and that's a big deal.
That's right. That's a very huge deal.
Yeah.
So you're talking about going in this direction of film production, live venue concerts, youth and community programming. That's interesting at a theater. Talk to me about it.
Well, again, we have the commercial capacity to be able to subsidize a kind of activity simply because we're the only game of town. And, I'm going to be making money hand over fist once we open the building. I know that because that's why I got involved with the deal. And some of that can flow over to help subsidize the institutions that are already in the neighborhood, many of which I attended personally when I was a kid. And that's
Mm,
really the goal, to help proliferate cultural arts to the youth that are there, that have nothing else to do other than go either terrorize downtown, which frankly I was doing when I was a kid too. It's even worse
mm,
now. Or
hmm.
God knows what else. There are so many
Right.
opportunities that we can provide to the youth and the elderly. I mean, everyone in the community, everybody come get enriched at the Regal, daytime programming, uh, senior movies in the day. Obviously, we'll be doing concerts on the weekends, more high profile things, but really keeping the lights on in that property as often as we can and involving the neighborhood organizations. And, that helps us out as well. We're
Yeah.
cross pollinating our audience, we're exposing them to other cultural organizations. And this is not going to be a siloed approach, because obviously during that cross pollination of organizations and their constituencies, we're going to be networking them. We're going to
Hmm.
facilitate the
Yeah.
networking and the marketing of said organizations as well. So we're very much looking forward to working with all of our future partners and bringing that to fruition, because that's really what it's all about. I'm gonna make money because I'm an investor. I mean, I need this is this is not just like a feel good thing. Like, I'm
Of
getting
course.
money.
No, I get it. There's bigger pictures in this. Talk to me a
Absolutely.
little bit about when the theater was built in 1927, all this star power. Tell me some names.
Absolutely. So the building was built in 1927 as the Avalon Regal, or excuse me, I've been saying that too much, as the Avalon Theater, and it
Mhm.
didn't turn into the new Regal Theater until 1987. But in
That's the
that
year I was
60 year,
born.
yeah,
Wow.
in that
Was
60
a
or so
Regal
year
Theater?
period, it was a vaudeville movie house. We have a full orchestra pit in the building, and it was built for silent film. And you'd have these big productions where there was an orchestra playing, and they had the screen, and sometimes there were dancers. Vaudeville transitioned into just like a movie theater in the '60s, and became a church in the '70s, basically. And then it was shuttered for a few years, and the Gartner family picked it up in the late '80s, I believe 1985 or so, and worked with Mayor at the time, Harold Washington, to redevelop the property. And it took a couple of years, and they spared no expense. The work they did in there is still evident today. It's beautiful, just as beautiful as it was in 1987 when they reopened, and it operated up until about 2008, and it was shuttered, closed, and I purchased it in 2014.
So this place has a history of some of the most beautiful names have graced this
Yeah,
place.
lots of names,
Magnolia.
lots of names. So there are two pieces of the Regal history. The original Regal Theater was in the Bronzeville community. And when
Mm,
Ed Gartner purchased the Avalon Theater in 1985, the original Regal Theater had been closed probably for about 20 years. But the original Regal Theater on Bronzeville, on basically where the Harold Washington Cultural Center is, that
hmm.
parking lot next door is where
Oh,
the original Regal Theater stood. A lot of people think it's where the Harold Washington Cultural Center is. It's actually right next door. But in any event, they closed that building in the late 70s, and Ed Gartner said, I want to keep the legacy of the Regal Theater alive. So he named the Avalon the new Regal Theater.
so
And
who is Ed Gardner?
Ed Gardner is the founder of Ed and Betty Ann Gardner are the founders of the Soft Sheen Hair Care Company.
Okay, I just
And
wanted to make the public law. I know,
very,
I
very,
know.
very, very
I just want
successful
to make sure the
family.
public.
Yes, absolutely. Very successful family. My
Yeah.
grandmother actually worked with an organization of his called Black on Black Love. And Ed
Mm,
Gardner and Betty Ann Gardner have done so much for the community. And I think among their chief accomplishments was the redevelopment of the new Regal Theater. And
interesting.
between the two of them, the artists have been anywhere from Aretha Franklin to Kanye West. And Aretha Franklin was actually crowned the Queen of Soul at the original Regal Theater in Bronzeville by Purvis Spann from WVON. So there's a lot of legacy,
Wow,
of history. Um,
what a
and
leg.
yeah, absolutely. So we're proud to be stewards of this property. Absolutely.
That's just a little tidbit Jay would know. That's
Uh-huh.
a really good fact. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yes.
You know, Jay, I know so much is happening. There's something in particular you guys say that the next phase of your interior restoration is going to be spring of next year. Talk to us about what's next with this next phase.
That's correct. So what we're doing a lot of writing right now because we're applying to the National Register of Historic Places,
Love
and
it
that
for you.
requires a lot of paperwork, a lot of engineering, a lot of architecture,
Yeah.
uh, deliverables, if you will, that have to be submitted to the National Park Service. That's probably a 6 or so month process. In that time frame, we're doing a fundraising sprint to raise about 12.5% of the 40 million it's going to take to redevelop this building. So we're doing this 5 million right now. We've got already about 8 million secured through federal tax credits that are
Mhm.
associated with historic buildings, state historic tax credits as well. And again, that work takes a lot of deliverables on the architectural and
Oh, yeah.
engineering side. Fortunately, we've been working with these folks for a long time. We've got a crack team. They were the same folks who worked on the Ramova Theater, and we're very excited to be in a position to win right now. So it's really just about filling out paperwork and meeting with folks and trying to get the program out there as best as we can.
What are you most excited about, Jay?
I am most excited about the new band I just joined. Actually, I'm the new drummer.
Hey,
Played. I
tell
played.
us about that. You
Yeah,
opening
yeah,
theaters, you starting in bands.
played. Yeah, I'm excited about that. We got a show coming up right now with the Ohio
Wow,
Players. Yeah, that's what I'm
that's
doing.
incredible, man. I love it for you. Congratulations. That's what's
Thank
up.
you.
Now, will you and your band be performing at the Regal?
Yeah, we rehearse at the Regal. It's crazy.
Of course. Where else? That's amazing, Jay. Tell me before we wrap up, how can people help make this possible? How can they donate? You've got a brick by brick option and some more stuff. Tell us about it.
Absolutely. Everybody can go to avalonregal.com/support. See it on the screen there. And there are multiple programs that you can join. Again, our brick by brick campaign is you can name $100 brick. We'll put your name on the outside of the building, or you can name $1,000 seat and get season tickets. And it's all explained on the website there, avalonregal.com/support.
It's a beautiful thing. You are moving and shaking in the South Side
I'm
and
trying.
all of Chicago is happy
Thank
to
you.
have you today.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you so much. As Creative Cypher prepares for our third annual XL Film Festival, we are just in the spirit of always giving space to uplifting our art, our film, our music, So that is exactly what the Regal Theater is going to become or re-become,
That's
right?
it.
Because you
Absolutely.
can't shut down the documentation of what already has lived. We've had Aretha Franklin crowned there, so that's a big deal. So
Yes.
just thank you so much for who you are to Chicago, who you are to the South Side, and who you are to the film industry, Jay. One
You're
last time, how can
welcome.
people help you with your campaign to build your
Yes,
theater?
avalonregal.com/support is the website. And if you go to avalonregal.com, you'll see a lot of information on the development. You can read up on who is on our team. And I'm very excited to move forward with the power of the community.
And we are very excited for you. Again, Vee L Harrison reporting live on the Creative Cypher Newsroom with Jay. He is going to be showing more of the Regal Theater. He invites you to go to his website, to the Brick by Brick campaign. Help us make this happen, man. Chicago needs it. The
That's right.
culture needs it, and the industry needs it. Thanks
100%.
again, Jay, for joining us on the
Thank you.
Creative Cypher.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Ciao.